Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the carburetor now. So I'm going to run through all kinds of stuff here with you to get the most out of this situation, to help everyone. You know, I tried to cover almost, as many things as I can to try to help with any situation that almost anybody could be in, as much as I can. You know, I can't do every bit of it, but anyway, here is the carburetor off of the original chainsaw that I have. I'm almost positive that is 100% original. I have a newer one. There is a number on the bottom side of the saw right there. I think it says 08 1F15, I believe is what that one says. That's the new one that I got. It's not really new, it's used. But this one that come off of the chainsaw is 08L28. That's what that appears to be. And they look 100% identical. The only thing that I could find that is any different is if you look at that piece right there where my thumbnail is, right there, and then you look at it here. Other than that, these things will probably work on any apparatus that they were designed to be on from the get-go, either way. So, well, maybe these are plastic screws here that I've heard people talk about. You know, maybe these are the metal ones. Anyway, when you look up the chainsaw or the carburetor, originally these things were called Lawson Power Products. Right there, Lawson Power Products. But in 1955, they were bought out by Tecumseh. Even after 1955, you'll still see these carburetors on things. So since they bought the rights to it, I'm assuming they just kept on using this mold. Anyway, there are also other carburetors on David Bradley chainsaws called Trillistons. So you got to be careful of that. This is not a Tilliston or Trilliston, however it's pronounced. This carburetor that we're working on in this saw is a Power Products or Tecumseh. So when you're searching, you can look up Tecumseh, Power Products, Craftsman Power Products, David Bradley Power Products, Craftsman, Tecumseh, Craftsman Power Products. You can also do Sears in that stuff. You can also put in the AH47, which is the motor model number of the saw. So anyway, now that that's out of the way for your search, and all that can be taken into consideration for almost any part on the saw. I know that's a lot, but it'll help a lot of people. Let's see. And obviously, any video that you do ever, eventually things are just going to be outdated. So the things that I'm getting ready to show you, the websites, part numbers, the stores on the websites, phone numbers, addresses, names, all that stuff, eventually it will change. This video is being made at the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. Well, yeah, the beginning of 2024, on out through. So, right now it's the 4th month of 2024. So that's the date of this video, approximate, when I'm showing you all this stuff. So just to note, things change throughout time. Okay, so with that out of the way, we'll get started here. With some of the other things I want to show you. This right here you're looking at, there's 2 videos that you should watch before you rebuild this carb. This YouTube channel is called Jonathan McClure, 2 words. I'll put the link in the description along with the other video. The name of the video on YouTube is Tecumseh AH47 Carb Rebuild - Sears Chainsaw Restore. There's also something in his comments that could be very useful there about this carb. He mentioned something about that he left out the part about the rubber pulse balloon in the big hole in the carb. We'll try and find that. It says, don't lose it and check to hold suction. He said it turns out, or it says it's not a valve, turns out. Good luck. So I've never heard anybody talk about that, but we'll look for it. It may not be anything big that we need to worry about, but we will look over that. So watch that video, and there's one more from Terrell Fixes All. That's the name of the YouTube channel. Like I said, I'll post this one down also. The name of the video is How to Rebuild Tecumseh Diaphragm Carburetors with Terrell. So watch both of those, and you'll be much better off. But I'm also going to go through the entire carb with you, parts and all that stuff. So be right back with you. Just real quick, this video here is from a channel called Vintage Engine Repairs. That guy you're looking at there is really good. This video was like, okay, so it's for diaphragms. Like a lot of people will get diaphragms and they're hard. You know, if a diaphragm's hard, it's not pliable. Diaphragms are meant to flex really, fairly quickly. And if they're not flexing and they're stiff, they won't work. So this shows how you can revive them sometimes. Of course, this isn't a permanent fix. This is just something where someone's in a pickle to where they just need it to work for maybe 2 or 3 days, something along them lines. You may be able even to do it multiple times, if something's going on to where you have to have something to run. Anyway, just a quick vid on him. The name of the channel, again, is Vintage Engine Repairs. The name of this video is Make Old, Dry and Hard Diaphragms as Soft as New Again. Be right back with you. Okay, so just this part here is to help you when you're looking for, say, a carburetor or a rebuild kit, or something along them lines. Rebuild kits you can get on Amazon, but eBay, this is an eBay store. It's called Cheap Chainsaw Parts. This guy has got, this is where I bought all my parts from, for all my spare parts for the specific saw that I have. So you can message him and speak with him. He may answer you, he may not, but he's a good source definitely for parts. Another place you can try here is chainsawr.com. If you go in there, the homepage is here. You go down to David Bradley, select David Bradley. And here is, there's all kinds of parts down through there for older David Bradley saws. You can see there's a coil, there's a flywheel. Sometimes they're sold out though. If they have them, they have them. If they don't, they don't. But that's another site that you can go to try and find stuff like that. This is a really good website here. If you go here, it's acresinternet.com. Really good place. And you can go over to parts sources there on the top, and then scroll down to wherever you need. Obviously, if you go to obsolete chainsaw parts, there's a toll-free number in here with it's Guido Saw Sales and Marine. Call them people. They might be able to point you to the right direction. Here's another one that may be able to help. Fowler Parts. The number is 952-884-5401. It's called FowlerPartsService.com. Also done a search on vintage chainsaw parts. All kinds of stuff came up there. You can also look up like chainsaw or vintage chainsaw museums, or chainsaw museum, something along them lines, and get numbers of them and call them and get a hold of those guys and speak with him. They can probably direct you in certain ways. And when you're talking to people on the phone or watching videos, you guys, don't let people discourage you just because you make one phone call or even 10 phone calls somewhere and they're telling you, it's not possible. I tried for 15 years. You can't do this. It's very possible in certain situations that might be the case, but if you dig hard enough and you make enough phone calls, you usually can find what you're looking for somehow or another. Like I was saying, you know, just don't get discouraged by things. You'll hear a lot of people in videos say, oh, if you can't do this and you don't understand this, you don't even need to be, you know, working on chainsaws. Everybody's got to start somewhere, you know, and I understand that, but you got to be safe. A lot of times they're saying things like that when they say you don't need to be doing this, is because of a safety thing. But that person, you know, he was born just like the next person. When you're born, you know how to eat, poop, and sleep, you know, so everybody's got to learn and start somewhere. So don't let things like that discourage you. But of course, you know, you do want to be safe and know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you know, you need to find out and learn about it a little bit before you start in on it. But that's some places that you can try to get some parts with, you know, and if you need to be, just leave me a message in my comments. You know, I'll help you out as much as I can. Sure will. So that is some chainsaw places to get parts at. Next, I'm going to show you the parts for this specific carburetor. Be right back. Okay, so for this specific saw that you know, this is everything I'm talking about is, you know, when I'm referencing things, sometimes it's on this specific model saw that I'm doing. It's not a wide array of stuff. Anyway, just trying to help you to understand that when I'm doing these things, when I'm referencing this stuff, it's tending to this specific saw specifically, you know. Model David Bradley 917.6009. The carburetor that come off of this one is a Tecumseh. We're going to run over some parts here. So gasket only. If you need just the gaskets only, right here's your part number. 630978. And you got to watch out for cheap parts. I mean, cheap parts may work. I don't know. It's got the diaphragm and the gasket in there. You can see it back there. But if it comes in this bag, I'm pretty sure that's the new age current Tecumseh part. Next part is the needle set only, which is what you used to get. Here's the original one. This is from way back when. When you get parts for that carburetor, you got just the needle seat set. You know, the stuff for the needle and the seat, and that was it. There's your part number. 630932A as in alpha. Now right here's a newer age one. Oops, sorry. There's your part number. 630932A. I want to show you something. Can you see that? Can you see that gasket right there? Can you see how that's got like a ring in the mold? There on the surface, there on the top. Right on the outside of the middle circle there, if you look all the way around, you can see like an indentation. That's a good part. If you see that, and I've seen most of these that I've seen were always white that were like that. That's a good part. If you see them black, may not be as good. Okay. This next set that I'm going to show you is a complete set. This is going to be 631893. Okay. Hang on here. I'll bring it up here on the interwebs for you. Right there, it's in the Google search. 631893. Here, I'll bring it up there. Complete set. Shows it on the bottom. 631893A. Sorry, there's an A at the end. So you can get cheaps of all this stuff, and this is one that I wouldn't cheap out on. This is a cheap one that I bought. And if you look at that rubber piece right there, which is the same as that white one that I just showed you, there is no indentation in this. It's flat on both sides, which will probably work just fine. You know what I mean? But in this set, you get everything. You get the little Welch plugs. You get the gaskets, you know, the diaphragm and the gasket for the bottom of the carb. You get the needle gaskets. You also get the needle washers. I'm sorry, the adjuster washers and gaskets, the screw adjusters for your high and low. You also get all the needle stuff. So that's a complete set. But get a good set, you know, like this, you know, like that one that has that needle seat rubber in it that I showed you. And then the last part that I want to show you while we're doing parts is this thing right here. You don't have to use these, you guys. It's just, figured I'd show you. This is the cheap one. You can see the part number there, 670377. If you look that up and you get the actual Tecumseh one, they're more. But if you look up there, how it says, if you look up replaces Tecumseh 670377, this is where you'll get it. It's on Amazon. I think this is it right here. Yeah, right there. Anyway, that's it's a tool. It's got a little pick on one end, and the other end has a specific little thing. You put that little needle gasket on and use it, and I'll show you how to use it whenever I get into the carb here in just a little bit. But those are your part numbers, guys. You know, that's the stuff that I wanted to show you and let you know how you get your carb parts and where you can actually get the whole carburetor, whatever, from if you need to. Be back with you in just a second. And while we're here doing this, I might as well talking about this. Here on this Sawreny, sawreny.net, SAWINERY.net, is like chainsaw history, you know, the origins of it, you know, who invented the first chainsaw and, you know, which ones they were. You know, originally the first chainsaws were just in like surgeon cases, you know, which was, I don't know, it was in probably late 18th century, probably. A German orthopedist named Bernhard Hahn was behind the rollout of the first chainsaw. Of course, there were other inventions, you know, things like that. That stuff's hairy, you guys. You know, there could have been people in late 1700s using something similar, just not gas powered, probably, you know. But the first people that actually registered it, you know, legally and all that stuff, you know, their names are the ones that get produced. So anyway, first chainsaws were, I don't know how they were driven, probably electronically, if it was, you know, used for surgery back then. But first gas powered chainsaw and how we see it, it's a throw up, I believe, between Dolmar and Stihl, who made the first chainsaw. I think it was 1927, I think. Yeah, 1926 and 1927, around in there somewhere. There was also electric chainsaws at that time, you know, right between them 2 years. But again, like I was saying, there were probably electric saws and maybe even gas saws years before that. It would just, no one ever had the money or that knew the correct person to be able to register it to where it was put into history, you know. But anyway, it's registered as first gas-powered chainsaw as we know it was 1926, 1927, and I think it's kind of a toss-up between Stihl and Dolmar. Just anyway, if you were interested in that, there's chainsaw history. Here's a really cool site. You know, it's the acresinternet.com that I was telling you about. You can go in here and go to chainsaws. This is where I got all kinds of info on this saw, which I'll put some of these things in the comments. Here, I think if you go to, yeah, David Bradley. After you go, you know, from the homepage, you go to chainsaws, and well, no, not those. Those are some of the different ones. Okay, so here's a perfect example. Here you've got to go to Craftsman. So if you go to Craftsman, Sears and Roebuck, perfect example of this saw. And our saw is the 917.60029. There's all kinds of information on it. You know, it tells you where it was made, where it was manufactured, the year, cubic inch, you know, all that. If you're interested in that, you know, it's at acresinternet.com. Just go there and then click on chainsaws up top, and then go down to Craftsman, and then, you know, pick your model number. In this case, this one we're doing is 917.60029, and it tells you all this stuff, you know. Tells you the frame and it's what it's called and the material of it and all kinds of info on it, which is pretty neat. Oh yeah, there's a picture down here. I'll show you the picture in better detail later. so you can, you know, kind of get a visual idea of the saw. And then on the same site, if you Google AH47 specifications or something like that, it'll give you AH47 specs. You know, I'll go into more detail on this stuff later, but it just tells you, you know, things about the AH47 and all the manufacturers that used them. You know, I mean, there was Aircraft Specialties, Barker, Bay State, Boland's, Cobra, Craftsman, David Bradley, Eclipse, Falls, Fleetwood, Han Eclipse, Hofco, Indian, Lancaster, Lebanon, Lombard, Mobile Co., Monarch, Silver King, Mono, Montgomery, Ward, Propulsion Engines Corp., Ram, Root, Scary, Strunk, Trams, Whitehead, and I'm sure there's more, but anyway, that's some pretty cool information there that can help too, I guess, certain people that are on this video. Those are all the name brands that use the AH47 engine, which is the one that come on the saw that we're doing. Anyway, that's just some extra info that I figured maybe you guys would like and might help some people. I'll touch on those a little bit more somewhere else in the video. I'm not sure where at though, but yeah. So from here, we'll probably start tearing down the carbon trader and yeah, going through it. See you in just a sec. Okay, here comes the carb vid. Here's your choke, which I done went over that. Here's your throttle. Here's your adjusters. This is your idle adjustment. And here's your petcock or inlet valve, whatever you want to call it, for your fuel. This is your filters. It's called, they call this a Skinner. I don't even think they make these anymore, but you might be able to find you one on them sites I talked about. And this is kind of like the intake. This piece here is what connects it to the motor. All right, first step, remove this screw right here. This one's just a flat head. Just loosen her up. After you loosen that up, take it out. Just remove this piece. There's your filter. And myself, I always, you know, do it how you please, but I'll put the screw back in like that. And you don't have to remove this, right, these two. It takes this off unless you want to. Next, I'm going to leave this on. I never did get that kit. I guess that's a kit I need to try and find for you guys, is this gasket set and also the gasket set on the motor too. That this part attaches to, and also that plate also has a gasket, but that you may be able to find all that on those two videos that those videos that I put up. So we'll see, we'll go from there, see. But next, I'm going to go ahead and start taking the bottom of the carburetor, whatever you want to call it, carburetor. There's a little plate on it right here, so we'll remove these two screws right here, which also holds this plate right here on, but we'll start out with removing these two screws. Definitely tell these are older style screws. I'm just going to take a flat head to it. Phillips might work, but I'm just going to take a flat head to these two, and I'll take these two off. Be right back. Okay, you can take them two off. This will just come right off of there. Put that aside. So we've got two screws out of this thing. Go ahead and remove this one and this one. Okay, all four of them are out. This will just come right off of there. There's the inside. I'm assuming this is that hole that we were referencing on that video that has that balloon thing or whatever in there. Only thing I see down in there, I can't tell if that's, let me get a little closer for you. I can't tell. Kind of just looks like a filter right there. I don't know. Or nope, there is another orifice down in there. I see something there. It's down in there on this edge right here, all the way to the bottom. There's something down in there, some kind of passageway or something. So we'll inspect that a little closer further on. But you know, here's your needle and seat. You see that little tiny piece sticking up. That's supposed to move up and down, and that one actually is. And then here you've got your gasket and your diaphragm. So pull these off. Yeah, I don't think that would have ran to you. Not as intended. So it looks like definitely this setup, the gasket will go face here. I'm sorry, your diaphragm will go onto here, and then your gasket, because this is actually two pieces right here. I can't pull this apart here. Pretty sure this is two pieces it's supposed to be. Oh, well. You know, and back then this, you know, I can't guarantee it, but everything's showing that this is two pieces. You know, the ones they made originally might have been one piece, you know, or this could have been taken apart before and a gasket not put on it. But anyway, if you're looking at the carb this way, we'll get into that here in a little bit when we go to put it back together. I'll show you that, you know, how we're going to put her together. But yeah, that definitely, I don't think that would have ran. Very crispy, not very flexible. And put that to the side. And of course, again, I like to put my screws back in. Put these 4 in and I'll be right back. Okay, got them 4 back in. Also too, earlier when I was showing some of these parts, I noticed I had the carburetor a little low, so we're going to remove the idler screw. Well, this is I know that gets a lot of people confused. This is a low and high. So there's one adjustment for when the motor is at idle, and then you hold it almost all the way open or wide open. You know, that can vary in there how you do that depending on the person and what they're doing, and all kinds of things that take factor. But this is the high side. When you're at higher RPM, you adjust this while it's there. Of course, the internet is loaded with that, so it's not hard to find that. And of course, you know, right here is where it attaches to the motor right here, like as if my hand was the motor. And so this is your low screw. Your low screw is always closest to your motor, and then your high screw is the one that's farthest away from it. And this one actually has an H right there, letting you know that that's the high adjustment. So when you take these out, there's going to be a spring, a gasket, and then I think there's a washer in there too on each of them. And I do believe these screws differentiate a little bit from one to the other, so don't forget which one is which. I'm going to go ahead and remove the high screw, and we'll take a look at it and lay it out there, and then we'll do the low one. So I'm going to loosen this up. I'll be right back. I wanted to tell you too, rule of thumb, or you know what a lot of people do is, especially if the carburetor was running when you pulled it off the machine, what they'll do before they take these out is they'll screw them in. And then you don't, once you hit bottom, you don't want to force it from that point. You know, you just turn it until it won't turn no more, and that's bottomed out. Well, they'll count the turns, you know, and how many turns they went in. That way, when they put it back together, they'll screw the screw all the way in and then screw the screw out however many turns that it took to turn in, and the screw will naturally be back in the same place that it was. Usually a turn and a half out. You know, you bottom a good starting point. You screw both of these in, you know, all the way, and then a turn and a half out, and that's usually where it's at. So, you know, when I reference and I say a turn and a half or a turn or a quarter turn, like, so I'm just going to mess this up. So we're going to say we're still going to start out right here, you know. So if I turn it that much, that's a quarter turn. I'm going to go back to the starting point. Okay, there's a start point. If I turn it that much, that's a half a turn. Okay, I'm going to go back to the starting point. And then a full turn, you know, if this is the starting point, will be all the way around. So a turn, I'm going to go back to the starting point. So a turn and a half, so that's all the way in right there. A turn and a half would be, there's a half, there's a turn, there's a turn and a half. So that's a turn and a half out, you know, after it was all the way in at a seating point. And that's usually a good place to start for both of these. But the internet's full of that stuff, you guys. It's really plumb loaded with that. But I'm going to get this out and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got this loose. Pull this, screw it on out here. And like I said, be careful because there's a spring, a little tiny washer. So when you pull this out, the sequence what goes in is naturally this. The spring goes on the screw when you're putting it back together, and I'll show you that when we get to put it together. The spring goes on the screw. That's your high side one. That's what it looks like. And you can see it there, you know, the spring in your screw. And that Terrell's video's got a part number for these screws also, pretty sure. At least the one that's a plastic one sometimes, and I think that is the high one, but it's in the video. Anyway, here's your high side. Spring goes on there. And then down in your hole, there's a washer. First, there's a washer. Hang on, let me get me a little pick here. So you got a washer in here, which is right there. Right? A little washer that goes there. And then under that is a rubber, you know, an O-ring. And these things can be in there. And this one was odd. Was trying to get it out without scratching and ruining nothing, but that one definitely needs replaced. But there it is. Sorry, I don't think I had that in the camera, but right there's your there's your rubber O-ring. So when you put your screw in, you know, so now that hole is bare right here. There's nothing in there. So when you put it back together, it goes the rubber O-ring, this piece, then your washer. And you guys, you might want to hang on to your washers because I don't see it in my rebuild kit. I see the O-rings, but not the washers. So the O-ring and then the washer goes on top of the O-ring. Put your spring on your screw, and then screw it in. Just make sure your rubber or your O-ring is seated well in there, and then your washer is seated well. Actually, I put the O-ring in, and then I put the washer on here, and then insert it. You know, kind of maneuvered in a way to where everything fits really nicely in there, and then I slowly tighten it on in down in there. But you'll feel it in your hand, you know, when you're doing it. Yeah, that's the high screw. So now we're going to do the low screw. Okay, so we got it out from here. This is the low. It's the same thing as the high. There's nothing different in it, but as far as the appearance, there is. The one on the left there, trying to get it to focus as best as I can, is the low screw. And there is a little bit of a difference there. You can see how that one looks. Okay, that's the low. Compared to how that one looks, that's the high. And you know, putting it together, like I was saying, people can do it a little differently. You can just add it to your screw here if you want. I mean, you know, everybody does things how they want. You can just add the washer onto the screw and then the O-ring, you know, and kind of seat it up against the spring there and slowly insert it and screw it in. Just whichever way you get it in. You just don't want to pinch nothing or get nothing cockeyed in there. You know, make sure everything's good and flush and seated well. At least you'll run. And that's your low and high, you guys. Screws. Next, believe we will do, I guess we'll go ahead and do the needle and seat. Yeah, sure will. So one thing I wanted to point out while we do the needle and seat real quick on these parts here earlier I showed you. Remember how I was saying this This is the good one as far as the needle and seat, because it's got the white rubber right there, and I was showing you how it had the ridge and everything on it. Well, when you get the older part, that rubber was already inside of that brass thing. That rubber is down in there. Just wanted to know, in case if you wanted to buy one of these, if you know happen to find one of these on the internet or whatever, that right there, it's got the good one in it. That white rubber is already inside of that brass part. So there is a specific way that goes in there, and I'll show you which way it goes here in just a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. To remove this, I think it's a 9/32 socket that'll fit. Most sockets you might have to grind down, you know, but I'm just going to use these right here and be easy, and that should not be very tight. So we'll go ahead and loosen that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got that loose, and just to let you know, I'll just tighten them back in. That way I don't forget which one goes in where. Anyway, so when that's loose, you're going to have multiple pieces in there. When you pull it out, that needle is going to want to come out of that rubber, and on the back side of the needle, there's a spring. And then you also have a washer that's down in there. So I suggest when you get it loose, turn the carburetor over this way, loosen it on up, which I've already had this one out. So now that washer or gasket, whatever you want to call it, is still down in there. That's what goes in first. And so when you're putting it back together, you put your gasket or washer down there, and I'll pull that out here in just a second. It's the first thing that goes down in there. And then when you put this together, this is your spring. Get this thing to focus. Here's your spring. And then down inside of this brass piece is your needle. It's all one piece you're looking at there. And then down inside of here is that rubber piece. See it down in there? I'm pretty sure what you're looking at the rubber, that's where that ridge side goes. So I think, or no, wait, I think I got that backwards. We'll find that out here in a minute for sure. But anyway, the rubber piece goes into here. I'll show you which way it goes in a minute. Then your needle goes into there like that. So you can see it sticking through that end. Then your spring goes onto here. Sorry if it's not focusing. Like that. Oh. Like that. And then you put your washer down in there. And then you turn the carburetor upside down, stick it in there, and then slowly screw it in that way. But if you're having problems with that washer falling out on you when you turn it upside down, you might have to do it this way and just, kind of tilt it to the side a little bit, and then however you think you should do it. But I'm going to pull this washer out of here real quick with my pick, and I'll be right back and show you. Okay, and there's the little piece that come out of there. Now that that hole is bare. There's nothing in there now. But there's what come out of there. And it definitely needs replaced. So, all right, that's how you take the needle and seat out. Be right back for the next part. Okay, so you can remove this piece if you wish. It's these two bolts, screws, or whatever right here. And it just comes off of there. And then you can remove this if you want to, but the gasket on there is still good. It's sealed well. So for the purposes of the video or whatever, I'm just wanting to show you how to do this. I'm not going to be using this one. I've got a rebuilt one over there, which I will be using this part. Yeah, this is what holds your skinner on there, your filter, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to leave these two pieces on as I'm showing you how to do this thing. So you probably, if this is the only one you have, you probably want to take them off. This gasket should be savable. And like I was saying, them other gaskets too on that motor, when you do pull this part off of the motor, the gasket from here that goes here will probably still be good. And definitely the one that goes in, after there's a plate that goes on the bottom of the motor, and there's a big thick gasket that goes there. Most likely that's also going to be good. You probably won't need to be replacing either of those, but just in case if you do, there's the videos that I had. You can ask people there. If not, you can comment on my video. I'll help you find them. But So next, if you want to take out these Welch plugs, you know, there's one there and there's one here. And oh, there's a ball check valve under here. That might be what that comment was talking about, some kind of balloon, something. There's a check valve in there, and a lot of times people won't even remove, they won't take this one out at all. And then a lot of times they won't take this one out unless they have running problems. Then they'll remove the, you know, after they rebuild and clean and everything, if it's still running bad, they'll take this out, that ball, and there it gets gummy, I guess. And then you can do that. But I mean, it's up to you, however you want to do it, to each their own. But I'm going to remove these Welch plugs. There's a bajillion different ways to do this. I'm just going to take a drill, you know, you can take like a drywall screw and start down in there and take a pair of pliers and pull it and twist it sideways. But I'm going to just try to drill a tiny hole right in the edge of it right here, kind of going down in that way, and then just stick me a little something in there and pry down on it, and that should pull that out. And as far as installing them, you know, the internet's plumb loaded with on how to install Welch plugs too. Basically, you put the Welch plug down in there and you stick something in the center, or sometimes there's special tools that you can use to manipulate, you know, the Welch plug, and it makes it spread out. So they'll kind of push down on it somehow, you know, or they'll take and tap it a little bit with a chisel and a hammer. There's all kinds of different ways to do it, but basically what you're doing is you're making the edges push up against the edge of the inside orifice of the carburetor, and it makes a seal. So there's all kinds of ways to do it, and I'll be doing it when I put it back in. But you know, my way might not be the most correct way, but that's just how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get me a drill bit, and I'm going to drill a small hole there, and I'm going to drill a small hole there, and I'll be right back with you. All right, so when you're doing this, people's just, when you put that drill bit down there, just make sure you're not hurting the area where that Welch plug is going to seat up against. If you do, you'll have to, you know, redress it before you put that Welch plug down in there so it'll seal. Anyway, the drill bit I used was a 3/32 drill bit, you know, but like I was saying, you do as you please. But I just got a little pick here. We'll stick it down in there, and oh, there she went. Manipulate it a little bit, and it came right out of there. So as you can see on that plug there, and you kind of see that ridge that runs. Hang on, I'm trying to look at it in the camera right here where I'm running the tip of this around. See how there's like a ring that runs? I believe that the tool, when they put that Welch plug in, I believe they put like a tool on top of the Welch plug and then smacked it, and that's what made that ridge. Could be wrong, but just an idea. Anyway, that one's out. Oh yeah, we definitely wanted to take that Welch plug out for sure. That's nasty, nasty down in there. Sorry, the lighting is a little bit different. I have to adjust the lighting around me so the light on this phone comes on when I turn it on, which is what I want. But let me do that real quick so I can show down in there. I'll be right back. Okay, there's my light. All right, so don't know if you can see down in there or not, but that's just absolutely. Up here's the light. That's just, or no, wait, where is the light on this thing? Okay, it's right here. That is just absolutely nasty down in there. So yeah, redo that. And then this plug here should do the same. Yep. So that plugs out too. I'd say probably no one ever takes that plug out, but just for the purposes of the video, I'm going to. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this with carb cleaner. I'm going to find all the orifices and which ones need cleaned out. Spray everything off and get all this much of this gunk as I can. And I'll be right back with you. This is the fun part, you guys. This is what all mechanics love to do with this carb cleaner or brake cleaner. And then, you know, you take compressed air and blow in and redo, you know, just do that over and over. That's one of my favorite things to do anyway, is the brake cleaner and the air hose. So, but I'll be right back with you. All right, got her all cleaned out here. Got her screws done with her washers. kept them. On them screws there I did. And got these pieces clean. This is the bottom of the carburetor. This is what holds your Skinner filter on. This is that bottom plate underneath. And the carburetor. Now, all these different orifices, this is where that Welch plug, the small one, goes. This leads to this, your high screw. So there's that little tiny hole right there. Leads to here, and also probably comes out in here. So this, and this is all connected when you're cleaning. There is not a screen down in there. That is not a screen that I thought it was. It just looked like it, but that little tiny hole down in there comes out right here. So your low side and this right here are connected. Your main hole is connected to this, your fuel inlet. So this and this, this is connected. Now this one over here, I believe does a couple different ways. I think maybe it's, I'm not 100%, you guys. It was kind of hard to tell, but it's actually got 4 holes in it. It's got, if you can see them there. Let me see if I can get something to point them out with a little bit. Sorry, all the shaking. I can't use that to point with. Anyway, there's a hole down in there. There's one right there. And then there's 2 over there. You know, I think some of those led, I'm pretty sure, led to like the inside, you know, the barrel inside of this thing, the main valley through there, I think. And it may have, some of them had come to come out of the low end screw, but I don't know how important them are. That might have something to do with how the diaphragm runs in it. I don't know. You know, maybe somebody can post that down in the comments where all them channel to. But the other channels, what I showed you there is where they go to. So she's good and clean. We are now going to put it back together. And the first thing we'll do is the screws. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to go over these kits again with you real quick. So here's the needle and seat set. Now, this is the old one. This is the newer style. This bag is Tecumseh Power. This is good. It's got that white one in there with a ridge on it. Naturally, that's inside of there. These are both the same part number, but you can find these, but they just don't make them anymore. It'd be something old like this that somebody's kept and that you buy off of them. This is the new stuff right here. So that's the needle and seat. I'm going to be saving this one. We're going to be using this right here for the needle and seat. So we'll lay that there. This is the good gaskets. Your diaphragm and the gasket. Tecumseh, it's the good one. We're going to be using that. Now this kit comes with everything, but this is the cheap kit. But the reason that I got this was for these Welch plugs and also those rubber gaskets in there for the screws. So, yep, that's what I got these for. So we'll be using the rubber gaskets for the screws out of this one and the Welch plugs, but nothing else out of the cheap set. Now you can probably get this in a good set, you guys. Just get the whole kit and caboodle. Just make sure, you know, usually a good part, that, see how that's black right there? That's that piece that goes into the needle and seat thing. See how this one's white? It's got a groove in it. I'll show you which way to put it in here in a minute. But this one's black. There is no groove, but I'm sure it'll work just fine. But anyway, I'm just saying you can probably find this whole set in a name brand Tecumseh one somewhere, possibly. I don't know. Anyway, let's get her going here. Okay, so this kit comes with 2 separate size Welch plugs. You know, naturally this one and then this one. So I got the seat cleaned out real good. Like I was explaining earlier, there's probably a way that they would teach this in schools or whatever. But the main idea is to get the edge of the Welch plug to push out. So, and they're dome shaped. So I've got me a screw here. It's got a flat end down there. I'm going to find the high spot on this Welch plug like that, and I'm going to hold it, and I'm just going to tap it. You see that little dent in there, and that's probably really all I need to get. But I'm going to go right there on that dent that I did, and kind of get the little high spot on the edge of it there. I'm going to tap that on down. I might even do a little bit more around the way to make sure that I'm sealed. Sorry, I know there's probably people screaming at their TV set right now, probably really mad at me. I do believe that that's sealed very well. So we're going to do the one on the side here. I'll be right back.